Okay, everyone can hear me. Very good, okay. Well, welcome to Jam session 54, Developing Android Apps for BlackBerry 10. I'm glad everyone lasted through the long day and was able to join us. My name is Matt Whiteman. I'm the product manager for our Android Runtime and Android development tools at BlackBerry. And sitting me up here on stage is Cameron. I'll let Cameron introduce himself. Waving. He is our, I guess you're the lead development manager? Yeah, so he develops, or he manages our developers for our runtime and tooling as well. So a quick overview of what we're going to cover in this presentation here. So we'll go over quickly, give a 5-minute overview of what exactly the BlackBerry Runtime for Android apps is. We'll look at some releases and upcoming features, both for PlayBook and BlackBerry 10. We'll feature some of the new, we'll demo, some of the new features available in the Beta 3 that we released this week for BlackBerry 10. Then we'll look at some of the development basics. So we'll cover, what are the options for converting existing Android applications, looking at code signing, that sort of stuff, as well as publishing applications to App World. And then we can finish the day off with some question and answer period at the end. So very quickly, we'll go through a 5-minute overview of Android Runtime. Now, before I start, how many people actually have heard of the Android Runtime for BlackBerry? Great to see that. How many of you have had an Android app and already converted it for BlackBerry, whether PlayBook or BlackBerry 10? That's great, about half of you there. That's great to hear. So, for those of you that don't know the details, the Android Runtime is based on Gingerbread version 2.33, and it's built on top of BlackBerry PlayBook and BlackBerry 10 OS. And so what this allows us to do is enabled ported Android apps to be installed and operate on both BlackBerry PlayBook OS 2.0 and higher, as well as BlackBerry 10. And we'll talk to the last point when we go through some of the demos, but it provides that deep integration with other native BlackBerry applications. So the goal was always to make Android apps really indistinguishable from other native applications. So to the end user, it was a very positive user experience. So some of the information around compatibility and limitations that we currently have with the Android Runtime. So we have about 65 to 70% compatibility for all Gingerbread-based Android applications today. So not all Android APIs are supported. There are some hardware and OS limitations. So some big ones that we have that get mentioned is there's currently no Bluetooth support in the release, as well as support for Google Maps, although we have some information around other ways of having maps in your applications. Also, it's to note that Android applications are limited to the personal perimeter of the device. So in the keynote, they had showed BlackBerry Balance feature of how in a work environment you could switch into your work space. So Android apps are limited to just the personal space for the time being. So to see the full compatibility list and some information around some of the details of some of the API differences between Android and BlackBerry, you go to our developer website and click on the API support tab under the Android page. So jumping into some of the releases and features that we're going to have for upcoming, both upcoming PlayBook and BlackBerry 10 software. So first, I don't know have people been to the website and looked at our new arrival boards where we have all the upcoming APIs and releases? So for Android, these are all the features that were delivered for this week. And then on the website, we have the updated list for a couple extra features that will be coming in the next beta that's coming in November as we drive towards our gold SDKs. So I'll go over some of this when we demo these features. But so we have invocation support for contacts and calendars, dialer support, although there's no dialer application on this, but that will be on the future releases as well. So that basically gives you the ability of, clicking on a phone number within an Android app and it'll launch the dialer for you. As well as what we call IMF supports. That's integration to that really cool BlackBerry 10 touchscreen keyboard. So the text prediction, how you would type on that interacts with Android apps as well. So it just gives your apps that native experience that everyone using the device would want, as well as integration with notifications and including our Eclipse plugin update to version 1.3. So I'll go into some more details about those in a second. So just jumping back to Playbook 2.1, so this is currently in beta, but what we added in this release was support for multi-window. So Android apps, if you were familiar with how it worked previously, Android apps would load in the same window, and it wasn't the best user experience. So with Playbook 2.1, Android apps now load in individual windows, so users would have that true multitasking experience. As well as we improved compatibility with support for our camera API for both front and rear cameras, as well as supporting in-app payments within Android apps as well. So looking at BlackBerry 10, so some of the features that we've added to BlackBerry 10 on top of what was available for Playbook, as like I just mentioned, integration with our new virtual keyboard, support for notifications. And so this one, what we've really tried to do is to take the notification system that was on Android and map it to the experience that you would see in BlackBerry 10. So this includes notifications that you would see within BlackBerry Hub, as well as in-app notifications like as a splat on the screen, as well as having the notification icon or a notification like a splat on your icon for your app as well. So those are some of the notifications that we support with this beta release. And then being able to invoke core BB10 applications. So some of those I'll show you today where it's contacts, calendar, being able to invoke the native browser from a web link. We also continued the compatibility with APIs, so the camera API as well, so the front and rear video cameras, just as the Playbook. In-app payments as well is also a set of telephony APIs supported now that you'll be able to make phone calls from the device. So there's a lot more detail on our support page around the specifics of, especially for telephony, around what is supported and what isn't supported, because there are some minor differences. It's not the full telephony API set, but it's definitely enough that you'll be able to have applications, detecting if you're roaming and that, things that you would want out of that API stack. So I'd mentioned before, so although we don't support Google Map API, if you want to use maps within your application, there's options. And so one of the easiest ways, what we recommend to people to do, at least for now, is being able to do a web view within your application. So you'll be able to embed the map system of your choice, whether that was Bing or Google Maps within your app. So again, there's a whole bunch of information on our support page under the Android developer website. But example of what this would look like is really just creating a web view, object here, and then loading up the specific mapping system that you want. And this example is just setting it to a specific location. There's a bunch of other options. I don't know, Cameron, if you know all the specific details to that, but again, it's on our website.
Yeah, it's general approach for showing web content in a web view. And there is one more option actually, maybe worth mentioning here, is that Google has an API which will return you a bitmap, like an image, static image of a particular area. Obviously the user can't interact with it, but it's an option if you just want to show an address.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good option there as well. So Cameron was speaking to the Google API for their maps, and I think that one, it's a free service, assuming that you only have 25,000 unique interactions with it per day per app, and then it comes to a paid model. But that's a good option as well. So now what I want to do is jump into a demo here. And so what we'll do is show you some of the new features with multi-window with Android apps. We'll look at being able to invoke calendar and contacts and show a little bit of how the camera support works. There we go. So this is the Dev Alpha B, the same ones that some of you have picked up today as well, running our latest SDK here. So I have a bunch of Android applications installed. Some of these are just test apps. Some of these are from our App Store. So you can see that I have some native applications open here, and then the rest are Android apps. And so with our multi-window support, they all sit next to each other in good harmony. So this example is 500 pixels. So this is an Android application running in its own window. I can minimize that out and then switch out to the native calendar application. So that shows you what, this is basic, the basic multi-window that you would expect out of any native application, but this just shows you how Android applications interact with that as well. So one of the things that I wanted to show you is the support that we've had for our invocation framework. So being able to have invoking core BlackBerry 10 applications from an Android app. So this is just a really simple, Android app that we created here. And so what this app does when you press the button is it goes to create a new calendar event with some, sample information. So clicking this, I jump from my Android application and it launches the calendar and then invokes a new calendar event. So you can hear it, it says a test event from our Android application, and I can save that, and it creates that. So that's the type of integration that we're looking to provide to Android applications. So, you would be able to still interact with all our native core applications. So another example of this was contact support. So again, I just have a sample contact application here that allows you to insert, add information to existing contacts. So I could insert a phone number here in this example, and it lets me select a native contact from my contact list. And you can see now that it's populated to work phone number for me. So I can save that there. Oops. Oh yeah, that's a good point. So this is without modifying anything within the code. This is using Android APIs. So applications that you have that have this functionality already, you don't have to change anything. This is just going to be working out of the box with BlackBerry 10. So the last thing that I wanted to show you here is our camera support. So I have an Android application here that uses camera. So I'll just launch this here. So then you can see I have an Android application. I'll take a picture of the crowd. There you go. So that's just showing our camera support. There you go. So again, that's using an existing, Android camera application with no modifications to that, and that just translates to our camera APIs that are available with this beta release as well. So that's just a couple quick features in this one. Like I said, there's a lot more that we've previously released and that we have in here as well. So, any sort of application that you wanted to put text input to, actually I can show you that quickly. If you haven't tried the new BB10 keyboard, it's a pretty neat experience. So again, within an Android application, when you select into a text field, you get the standard keyboard where you can swipe up. I'm not spelling anything here or saying anything here specific, but so it integrates with the native BB10 keyboard within your Android application. So that's a feature there as well. So to jump back to the slides here. Perfect. Okay, so now jumping into a little bit of the development basics here. So what I really wanted to try to cover is just go over some of the basics around the options for converting applications, talking a little bit about our signing keys and how you would actually sign the application. And then once you're ready, submitting it off to App World. So I guess before I go into this specifically, I'll ask the room, of the audience members that have converted applications, I guess how many of you have used our online conversion tool? Okay, so we got 1 or 2 in the room. Good, 3. Who uses the Eclipse plugin? Okay. And then command line tools? Okay, so those are about split. So what we've tried to do is give as many options to users as possible. So with our online conversion tool, this really is the quickest way to get your app converted, and I'll go over some of the details of what that looks like. I guess the pro for that is it's really quick. If your application support it and you can get it converted, then it'll step you through signing it and then even going through the App World registration process. The downfall is if there is something that is not supported or it gives you a warning, and again, I'll show you what that looks like, it halts you, it doesn't let you continue. Whereas our command line tool and our Eclipse tool, you can still test your application to see if whatever warning or something that wasn't supported would impact the user experience. So one of the other things as well for our tools is our simulator support. So I guess people that are converting applications, do you use a physical device or do you use our BB10 simulators or PlayBook simulators to test on? So hands up if you use simulators. Everyone's using hardware, okay. It's not surprising, you guys all have dev alphas and dev alpha Bs. So it's also good to know that we do have a full virtual simulator that is being able to test on a machine if you don't have hardware. So it basically acts as a real device, but it's living within a virtual environment on your desktop. And then we'll go over some of our code signing concepts as well as what debug tokens. So the online conversion tool, for those of you that haven't seen this before, it's a pretty simple website walkthrough. It uses Java applet to get things working. And when you get to the page, you just sign in with an email address, or I guess you just put an email address and it passes you through here. And what you need to provide the website is your APK file, and then you link to the location of your Android SDK folder, your Android Gingerbread SDK folder. Then from here, you can actually start the test where it'll go to, the first thing is it'll verify if your application can run. So if everything was successful, you'd see a screen similar to this, where you see your screen highlight a box and it's telling you that your application didn't have any warnings with converting, and that would successfully transfer. And at the bottom, it's kind of hard to see here, but you have the options to then download our tools, our plugins, to then step into the tools to either do additional testing or to sign your application that way, or you could package and submit your application directly to App World from here. Now, if you try to convert your Android application and you see this page, that means that you've had something that wasn't supported. So this doesn't necessarily mean that your application wouldn't work on our platform. It's just letting you know that there's something in there that's not fully compatible. So we have a warning system that ranges from 1 to 5, 1 being a mild issue and 5 being severe. So generally what we recommend is if you have warnings that are less than 2, so you have 1 warnings, generally that doesn't impact the function of your application. It's just a feature that's not supported, or it won't be used. If you have something that, a warning that is greater than 2, generally you'll lose that functionality, or it won't function. So the example in this one, and again it's kind of hard to see, was this is an example before we supported camera and telephony APIs. So here someone tried to convert an Android app that used camera, and it's saying, well, this wasn't supported. This is now supported on the conversion or our online tool. So if you have an application that uses the camera API, it will tell you that that's going to be functional. So that's just a quick overview of the online tool. So jumping into the Eclipse plugin for Android. So what we did here with Eclipse, so at least from our experience, most Android developers are going to be, looking at Eclipse at some point, using the Google tools. So we have a BlackBerry plugin built for the Android development tools. So this allows development for PlayBook and BlackBerry 10 applications or Android applications to port it to them. And it basically allows it to just be another device target mixed with your existing Android project. So for the users that haven't used this, once you install the plugin, which is a fairly trivial exercise to get it installed, existing Android projects, if you right-click on the project, you'll see a new menu item called BlackBerry Tools. And when you jump into there, you can actually add a BlackBerry nature to your project, and then right from there, you can verify and then convert your application to a bar file. From that point, you can sideload it, debug it on hardware to make sure that everything functions as expected, and then sign it for publishing for App World. I guess also note that the current version that we have released supports Android Development Tools version 20.03. So that's the Android plugin. Now, for people that want to use our command line SDK tools and don't use Eclipse as their primary IDE, or have a bunch of existing Android applications they want to convert quickly to see which ones will be successfully converted and how they'll work on the device, the recommended approach is using our command line SDK. So from here, it's actually 4 really easy steps and commands to work with. We have the first one is checking your compatibility. So we have a tool called our APK to bar verifier. So this basically just verifies that all of the APIs you're using will function correctly on the PlayBook or BlackBerry 10. And similar to our online tool, if it doesn't, it'll print out a warning message of saying where your warnings are. So it'll list all your level 1, level 2, level 3 warnings, that sort of thing. Now, even if you had a couple warnings and you still want to test it, you can then, or if you didn't have any warnings and everything was good, you can then jump to our APK to bar command, and this will take your APK and actually produce a bar file for you. So once you have your bar file, and if you want to sign it, you can use we have a batch bar signer. So this allows you to sign individual bar files or multiple bar files as well. And here I'll just run, the command allows you basically just to point to your signing keys and then enter your signing password. There's much more information on our website around the specifics of this when you register for your signing keys, what your author.p12 file is, and it's pretty simple when you walk through the instructions online. And then the last step on number 4 is if you actually want to deploy your application to your device or simulator to test it. So we have a simple BlackBerry-deploy command, which actually will install your application to your device for you. So that's a quick run through of the command line SDK and what that provides. So some notes for when you actually sign your apps for App World. So all applications that are converted have to be signed, have to have a valid signed bar file for them to be accepted into App World. When you're testing, you don't always have to sign your application. You can load a debug token to your device. That's valid, I think, for 10 days before another one has to be generated. And so if you're in progress of doing development, the debug tokens are the best way because then you don't have to keep on signing your application every time you want to test it on your device or simulator. And again, so all the details for signing up for signing keys and some of the instructions around how to get that installed in your system or tool or online under Android, our developer.blackberry website and under Android/signing key. And so at this point, we've successfully converted our bar file. We didn't have any errors or warnings. We've signed it, and now we want to go submit to App World. So a little bit of information around App World. So it's a global marketplace. It's free to register as a vendor. It's free to submit applications to it. It's a 70-30 revenue share. We support credit card, PayPal, and carrier billing if you have an application you're posting for sale or do in-app billing. So we found that carrier billing has really helped increase monetization potential because it's a lot easier to add it to your monthly bill than it is to pull out your credit card when you're buying something from an application. So that just means more money for you guys if you're selling applications within that store. So we have both free and paid app catalogs as well as integrated barcode scanning. So it's easier to find your app. So if you're doing advertising, you can do QR codes, and then other users, when they scan that QR code, will jump into the App World page for them to download their application. They're also doing similar things with NFC. So if you saw around the conference today, there's areas where you could tap NFC-enabled device to download the conference app. So what I also wanted to do is highlight some of our success stories that we've had from the Android development community, and I think why it's important to look to some of the other options that Android developers have to continue monetization of applications or increase your downloads. So there's more than just the Android Play, marketplace. We're seeing a lot of other developers look to some of the other stores, so such as App World, BlackBerry App World, Amazon's Nooks, where it's not as crowded, shall I say. Where there's over, I think, half a million apps in Google Play now, so it's a fairly crowded marketplace, and it's really difficult to start on a brand new application and get any sort of traction in there. So one of the success stories that we've had was from our partner, Pine Lake Communications, and there was actually a really good write-up on our website, blog article about their experiences with this, and they actually did a pretty cool little video. If you have a chance, you can go check that out. What they did is they actually developed an OpenGL Android application, and if you haven't heard of it, Cubifice, it's a pretty addictive arcade-style game. It's kind of like the opposite of Tetris, where you start with a full grid and you have to remove pieces to create certain shapes. So they did this for Android, put it in the marketplace, and they didn't get the traction they wanted. They had very few downloads. So they looked to other marketplaces. So bringing their application over to BlackBerry App World. The porting process took them less than an hour, and that included actually converting their application, because there was no issues, signing it, and then registering and submitting their application to App World. And they now see 25 times more downloads in App World versus Google Play, even months after releasing the application to both stores. So that's one example. And then, I don't know if that's easy to read up there, but just some of the tweets that we've seen around people speaking to, no changes required to get their app or their Android app deployed for PlayBook. Porting apps from Android to PlayBook and BB10 is very easy, was another one. Another commenter said, I'm making more money on the Android App World than the App Store and Google Play Store combined. So just some sentiment to we're actually having really good success stories with Android developers coming over to the BlackBerry App World, selling their applications. And it speaks to what we've been trying to do. We're making it really straightforward to take an existing application and getting it running on our platform, and then still have access to the integrated experience that you have been seeing with BlackBerry 10 this week. So this is included in the presentation because after the conference you'll be able to download this. So we have all the information around our Android website. Again, developer.blackberry.com/Android, as well as looking at our roadmaps. So some of the things that I didn't mention today, but is now officially on a roadmap item. If you are doing any sort of push work within an application, that is coming in an update in November to support push for applications, and that actually takes the existing Android, I guess it's C2DM API, and it maps it to the BlackBerry push framework. As well as if you wanted to download any of our tools, we have our new 1.3 beta for download as well for both Eclipse and command line tools. And then for those of you who haven't ported any applications and want to get started, we have a link there to our Getting Started tutorial. Oh, this just snuck in here on me. So to talk more, we're actually having an Ask the Experts at 6 p.m. in the Hall 1, same area where you guys have been getting breakfast and lunch. And I'll be there and a bunch of other BlackBerry experts there from all the different SDKs as well as App World. We'll be there to answer any other additional questions. Yeah, and if you want to continue the conversation, I'm on Twitter. My handle's actually Hey Redbeard because of the red beard here. So you can get me on Twitter or you can continue the conversation using hashtag Jam54. As well, don't forget to download our conference guide applications, or our application, as well as give us your reasons to believe in the 10K Reasons to Believe booth in the Jam space. I guess it should also be noted that with if you download the conference application and submit the survey, I believe there is a chance for, I don't know exactly the specifics, but there's a chance to win an Arduino development kit. Yep, yeah, I think that's what they were saying. So all of the Android people, that's pretty cool for us. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, Cameron and myself will be up here and we'll be able to answer all of your questions. Okay, good question. So the question is, what are our plans to support more than Gingerbread? So with the PlayBook 2.0, which is going back to, I guess, February of this year, it's when we released Gingerbread. So it's been not quite a year that that's been out. So we are looking at, and I guess experimenting with what the next version will bring out. We don't have any time frames around what that will be, but we are looking at moving to a newer version of Android.
I saw that you can handle intents to native applications. Can you share cards also? So for example, native application can invoke my Android application.
Yep, so that's actually a comment that's come up before. The question was around if you could invoke an Android app from other applications, and I believe that's something that we are currently looking at least for a backlog at some point.
Yeah, are you asking about in general invoking the application,
yeah,
or
using the
invoke an intent?
framework you guys?
Invoking an application is possible even today, so you can invoke an Android application. But if you're asking about invoking an intent,
yeah,
specific intent, that's currently not supported, but
Yeah.
it's in our backlog.
Yeah, so that's something that we're looking at. It's on the, I guess, the list of things that we're looking to support in the future.
Last one. I don't know. I think in the previous release there was a fact that you can access your application folder if you use the runtime. For example, if I am using SQLite and I'm using command line to see all the tables and data, you can access it when you deploy it to the device. And when you deploy it the second time, it deletes everything and recreates the item.
I'm not sure.
You can't access the sandbox on the file system.
Yeah, you can access. It says that you don't have access. You don't use your application folder.
Okay, it's something we should look at. In general, application should have access to the sandbox on the file system as well as access to the SD card.
Yeah, we can chat more about that specific one. We'll get some contact information. We can follow up. Okay. Yep.
Can the Android apps take advantage of Peak? Or are there plans to do so?
So with the Peak stuff, I guess it would be fair to show something like that. So when you say, let me just load an example here. So when you say Peak, does that mean does that gesture work for them as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely. So if I have an Android, actually, can we switch to? So if I have an Android application open, I'd be able to peek and then slide over, if that's what you mean. So yeah, that's absolutely supported. Yep.
When do you have the Android porting guide available?
The Android porting guy. Sorry, you mean like on the jam floor?
Well, iOS, didn't come up with a porting guide. I thought that Android has the same thing.
Oh, sorry, you mean like something like an official guide on our website of the porting guide, or?
Yeah, so porting Android to BlackBerry one by one, class by class.
Well, she means porting to native instead of using Android.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah.
So port an Android application to native.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe we have anything of that yet, but that is something that we can take back to our docs team to see if they could be able to start something like that and post it on our website for additional support. We'll take that back as feedback. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sorry I was late because I couldn't find a room. So this whole talk is about using the Android runtime?
Yes. Yeah, this is the Android runtime on BlackBerry 10 and PlayBook.
Anything that it will support, on the Android runtime?
Yeah, so what we have today is built on top of Gingerbread 2.33. And it's about 70% compatible across all APIs. We have the full list of things that are not supported on our website under the Android website /API support, but you'll see it there, as well as some of the slight differences for stuff that we do support, but it might require minor changes. But we do have the full list of exactly what isn't supported as opposed to what is supported, because we support a lot more than what we don't.
I have the Android .apk. I just run the Android runtime, and it will completely work on my
Yeah, so using our verification and porting, I guess converting tools, you can take your APK file and it will verify it and it'll show you what, like either you'll get no errors or you'll get warnings about what won't work properly, and then it'll produce a bar file, which is what our file system or operating system uses, and then that'll just work. We see a lot of applications that just work with no code modification.
Do you have like an open lab that I can just bring my .apk tomorrow and just to see what happens?
We don't have one on the floor, but I'll be around. I have my laptop set up for that, so I'll be around the jam floor tomorrow during the unconference day.
Does it support the Mac OS?
Yeah, our tools are Mac compatible. Yeah, yeah. So maybe what I'll do is in the hall 1 area. If anyone's interested tomorrow morning. Yeah, we also have an online tool you can try as well. But I'll set up a table and I'll have my laptop out. Yep. Should I just have one over there first?
So right now, it's still currently the PlayBook's the only thing that runs the Android apps. Right?
The dev alphas do as well.
And then, but with BlackBerry 10, then all those will run it as well. Will the PlayBook get BlackBerry 10?
So they have made the comment that they're looking to bring BlackBerry 10 obviously to the PlayBook at some point in the future. Yep.
Camera example, you have to share like an Android. Usually Android pulls up all the other apps that you could share out to like Facebook or whatever. Are you doing the same functionality with let's say you had an Android app that does the same thing as BlackBerry app, would it show both, or how would what would happen?
Yeah, the share framework.
So that's something that's again kind of in our backlog. We have been discussing it with Matthew a number of times. Currently, when an Android application tries to share something, it can share this data only with other Android applications on a device. But the goal is to enable this in the future with other applications as well.
Yeah, so there's this concept of a share framework on BlackBerry 10, and at some point we want to be able to enable that. So the concept of being able to share contact or whatever the content is, that I'd use the the native controls for that as well.
How do you actually support a shared framework like social network? Like my app is really, involved with social network like Twitter, Facebook, but they happen to many apps that use it too. So would it port over as well?
I guess not knowing the specific application, it depends on, again, what the API levels use. With the share framework thing that we were talking about specifically, that would be, and again, it's not supported today, but if you had a simple example is you had a picture and you wanted to share that out to a social media site, you'd be like native applications have that ability to, say, I want to share this, and it launches the shared service on the device. We're looking to bring that to Android applications as well at some point in the future. But it sounds like your specific application, that'll just depend on the API that it uses. But if your, example of your application was somehow using, Twitter APIs or that, there's no reason why that wouldn't work. It just depends on the specifics, again, of the Android APIs that they're using. So one in the back there? Yeah.
I'm sorry if I missed this late, but is there any chance of moving the Android VM out of user space into core space?
You said corporate space? Or?
The user space of the operating system and core space?
I'm not sure.
You refer to the personal versus corporate perimeters? Or?
Virtual space using 600 megabytes, and is that what you offer, or can you expand that?
I'm not quite. Sorry, I guess I'm not quite sure of the your question there.
So right now this all runs in user mode, right? VM and everything runs in user mode.
Yeah, well,
Or QNX. And someone had mentioned that they're talking about bringing the VM instead of the cores.
yeah, the components that run in the user space on Android on an actual Android device, most of the components that are part of the Android operating system, they run in the user space. So these same components run in the user space on BlackBerry as well. We're not planning to change this because that's how Android OS is designed to work. Now, in an actual Android device, you have the Linux kernel kind of at the bottom of the stack. We have replaced this with the QNX kernel. So pretty much the part that is running in the kernel space on a real Android device is also running in the kernel space here on QNX. That's why we don't see any difference in terms of performance. In other words, we're not emulating Android. We are actually running it on top of QNX.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's how it runs on an actual Android device as well.
Okay, sorry, there's a question over here.
Yeah, what's the long-term plan on the unsupported VM, on the unsupported API?
So yeah, the long-term plan is we always look to prioritize feature set based upon developer asks. So I have a current backlog of stuff that we're looking to bring. So current unsupported features, such as NFC or Bluetooth and stuff like that, those are very high time and effort. Yeah, especially building out a new platform. The native tools or the native have to have those APIs baked and ready first, and then we can ingest them and map them to ours. So it's time and effort. So I saw one up here. Yeah.
In one of the GAN sessions, it was mentioned that Android apps cannot run in corporate mode.
Yes.
Can you please elaborate what it means, what won't work?
So what that means is that if you have a BlackBerry 10 device or a PlayBook device that is enrolled in enterprise, so it's hooked up to one of our Mobile Fusion servers. So it's a corporate device or personal liable, corporate liable. The corporate space, they have like their own, file system on the device that they can control. They have policies around. They control the apps that are in that space. So for that reason of control, Android apps aren't allowed in that corporate space. They're only allowed in the personal space. So for a user, and we showed this in the keynote, user can have all the Android apps they want in their personal space, but when they flip into their work mode, their work's controlling their workspace, and at the current time, Android apps aren't allowed in that space.
Is that something that might feel out in the future, or looking at, or it's probably a hard?
It's one of those things where it's, I don't know, right? I mean, the enterprise users, were pretty on the fence about Android specifically, and it's the security thing, and it's a hesitation of they don't really want it right now. If the demand for it increases, then we'll definitely look at implementing that, but for the time being, the demand just isn't there.
If the Android code of the application is pushed by the enterprise to be...
They can't push it.
Or they can't even push
No.
That's what I want to say. From a user point of view, what it means is that enterprises can't push an Android application using BlackBerry Fusion.
Yeah.
But users still can install applications in their personal space. It's not like they won't be able to install them.
One at the back, yep.
I'm just curious, after the conversion process, should I expect that my app to look identically on BlackBerry as it does on the Android device, or are you guys making any changes to the UI during the conversion process? For example, are you guys adding any native BlackBerry controls?
No. No.
No, it's completely up to you if you want to customize it and make it look more like BlackBerry application. You can do that, but if you just convert it directly, it will look like an Android application.
Yep. Any other questions? We'll take one up front. Yep.
Do you have BlackBerry theme available?
Like to theme the
Like an Android theme, yeah. That's something that we have discussed in the past. What you mean is like the controls that the application uses to look like Android controls. Yeah, it's something that we don't have right now. Obviously, if we go for it, our main priority is to make sure that we don't break the applications as we apply the theme.
So it'd be something that we'd have to maybe do some research and experimentation with. Do we apply a theme pack, or do we just take the controls and make them kind of replace them with like the BlackBerry 10 controls? So parts of your application, would still have that Android flair, but then the interaction with it was replaced. Yeah, that's kind of that first process to that, and we want to expand that out to other input controls as well. Okay, another one over there.
Background processing, like location updates, things like that, is that all being done natively, or between, let's say you have an Android device that's running a process in the background that wants to pull data for location-based, either whatever it is that being supported?
So background processes, and they talked about this, I don't know if it was one of the earlier sessions of the keynote, background processes aren't, I guess not fully supported on BlackBerry 10. There's different classes of areas that you can work, but so within an Android app, when it's running, you can go and do something else, and you have the ability of making sure that if you have like a GPS service, that stays awake. So the app has to be open and running, but you don't necessarily have to be on it. So that is supported. And then, for example, if you had an Android application and you didn't want the screen to go to sleep because it was like an alarm clock type application, you could have the flag to keep the screen alive. Okay, no other questions? Okay, thank you very much.